Good morning, friends. Great to see you here for another Mike's MMA Picks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown, brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We have UFC 238 Chicago. Awesome fights scheduled for this evening, 6 of which are lined to end inside the distance. We can kick things off right away with a battle of women at the 125-pound division. We've got Hagan, the Grunt Master, taking on Joanne Calderwood. Joanne Calderwood with a 13-3 record. Both of these fighters are coming in at $8,100 in DraftKings. I'll be honest, this fight is going to be one that I will probably avoid. It all depends on who has the trigger finger at Fight Metric, because we know that Hagan, she loves to air punch, and she's an action fighter at distance, but she rarely engages. She hasn't landed a takedown in her UFC career. She averages 4.08 strikes per minute. And, you know, I'm not impressed with Hagan. I am impressed with Calderwood's scrappiness. She has a legitimate ground game. Both of these fighters have an identical reach. Calderwood isn't the greatest athlete, and I think that may come into play in the latter rounds. So I'm going to pick Hagan as a -120 favorite to come through here. The odds I'll be listing for each straight fight are courtesy of BetDSI, so you can check that out over there. Next up, we have, at the men's 135-pound division, Eddie Wineland taking on Gregory Popov. Gregory Popov, 35 years of age. He's been fighting in Russia. Has 16 professional fights under his belt. Traditionally known as a Muay Thai fighter, yet has developed a ground game, fighting out of Tiger Muay Thai, taking on Eddie Wineland, who he isn't from Chicago, but he's from Indiana. And, man, Eddie Wineland, 37 professional fights under his belt, 8,200 DraftKings, -145 favorite. So we have a little odds value there. Eddie Wineland turned pro back in 2003. I was impressed with his performance against Turbo Perez. I actually was also impressed in a loss to John Dodson. This kid Popov, half of his fights have come by finish. This fight is expected to go to a decision at -130. I think we'll see Eddie Wineland's swan song here. I think he rides off into the sunset with a decision victory. Next up, we have in the men's middleweight division, highly contested fight between Bevin Lewis and Darren Stewart. Bevin Lewis is a Jackson Wink product. He has a 5-inch reach advantage over Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart, 9-4 fighter. who is very, very durable. We're talking about Stewart here. He's been under the tutelage of Brad Pickett recently. Darren Stewart sitting at plus 145 right now. Bevin Lewis, I saw odds around minus 240-ish. The challenge in this fight is Bevin Lewis. He's got some chin issues. I saw a kickboxing match. I think it was called Fight Bills NFC, where he was knocked out in. I believe that was in 2017. You can find it on YouTube. He was dominating his fight against Uriah Hall in his UFC debut, and showed many different tools. High volume, elbows, standing elbows, mixing in some kicks. Seems like he has a very high fight IQ. Challenges, Uriah Hall clipped him with a counter right hand, and that was good night, Irene. So with Darren Stewart, you're getting a durable fighter who there's not really much to his game. He mixes in some wrestling. He's got a lot of heart, and he's not afraid to get hit. In fact, with an interview with James Lynch, I believe I heard him say that he's not afraid to get knocked out. And Bevin Lewis is coming off of a knockout loss. He's taken 6+ months off since that fight. So at 9,000 in DraftKings as a minus 165 favorite, I like Bevin Lewis here. I think he's more often than not going to take home the victory here. Actually, I have 2 units on him at minus 155. Darren Stewart, 7,200 in DraftKings. Could be upset city in the making here, but I wouldn't count on it. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at minus 195, but the pick here is going to be Bevin Lewis. Next up, we have Xiaonan Yan taking on Angela Hill. Xiaonan Yan out of China, 29 years of age, 9,100 price, very high price tag on DraftKings. Minus 185 favorite at BetDSI. Yan, we saw her take out Kondo and Pereira and Kaylin Curran, but I'm impressed with her stand-up, but I've got some issues with the competition she's faced. You look at Angela Hill, who's 33 years of age. Angela Hill is a plus 155 underdog, coming in at one of the lowest priced DraftKings plays of the day. Angela Hill, this might be the end of the road for her. Her back is against the wall. She coming off of a win, but prior to that, got subbed out by Randa Marcos. You look at her losses to Courtney Casey, Nina Ansaroff, Jessica Andrade, Rose Namajunas, Tisha Torres, Carla Esparza. Angela Hill has been in there. She's a savvy vet. This fight, I mean, look at those odds to go to the decision. Minus 435. Angela Hill, 6 losses on her record. Yan is going to come in here looking to strike. I'm interested to see if she's able to match the volume of Angela Hill. I see a split decision here incoming, and this is a tough one. I've been on the fence. I don't trust Yan. I am leaning towards Yan here, but as a DraftKings punt at 7,100, decent play. It's just you're going to need, if you're in those tournaments, you're going to need 6 wins So it's tough call here, but Yan is going to be the pick in a split decision victory. Next up, we've got a great fight between Ricardo Lamas against Calvin Kattar. Calvin Kattar, 19-3, fighting out of Massachusetts. Ricardo Lamas, the hometown kid, fighting out of Chicago. Man, Ricardo Lamas getting up there in age, 37 years old now. Had a great fight against Darren Elkins. Prior to that, Mirsad Becic. I don't take a lot away from that Becic loss. In my opinion, I thought that was a win in my eyes in respects to Lamas coming off of that brutal knockout against Josh Emmett, short notice replacement. I had a tough time swallowing that. Not only because I was on Lamas in that case, but you wonder where Lamas' career trajectory would have been headed if not for that brutal knockout loss at the hands of Josh Emmett. Lamas, very versatile fighter. Low volume is an issue. Has some noteworthy submission wins on his record. Notably, Charles Oliveira, subbed out Charles Oliveira, as well as Dennis Bermudez, Cub Swanson. There are a few others on his record. Ricardo Lamas has been known to land low kicks. Calvin Kattar has been, or Calvin Kattar has been eaten up by leg kicks in the past against Renato Moicano, but there aren't many fighters like Moicano. Moicano did have he was able to be around a similar height and similar reach to Calvin Kattar. When I was surprised when I researched this fight, Kattar only has a 1-inch reach advantage. Kattar's only 31 years of age. Calvin Kattar, a tremendous boxer, sitting at -150 at the betting window. Ricardo Lamas plus 130. The odds have closed on this fight. Ricardo Lamas 7,400 at DraftKings. I think Ricardo Lamas is a live dog here. And this fight is expected to go to a decision at -155. I'm actually going to take a shot at the dog here, at least in DraftKings, at 7,400. I'm going to pick Ricardo Lamas to come out with an underdog victory here. Next up, we're going to try and breeze through these next few fights. Just one last thing. How about Calvin Kattar at the weigh-ins, man? Filling out. I have no idea how that guy makes 145 pounds. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, women's 115-pound division, taking on Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso, I don't think we completely gauge who she is yet. I see her her kicking game. I've seen her have a lot of trouble on the ground, not only against Tatiana Suarez, but other fighters as well. I believe Felice Herrig caused some big problems for her. Randa Marcos as well. Kowalkiewicz, 12-4 record. Losses to Michelle Waterson, Jessica Andrade, Claudia Gadelha, and former champion Joanne. This fight has a striking affair written all over it. 8,400 for Kowalkiewicz, 7,800 for Grasso. See a lot of love for Grasso. Grasso sitting at a plus 100 odds. Grasso, 2-inch reach advantage. Kowalkiewicz, in a way, it looks like she might have one foot out the door here. I'm concerned about that. If this fight ends up in the clinch, I think we'll see a strong showing from Karolina. But I'm not trusting either fighter, especially Kowalkiewicz off of her last few fights. This will be a pass from me as far as a DraftKings play. And I'm gonna lean Grasso here to surprise us. She doesn't come from a great camp, fighting out of Mexico. I believe she's with Aldana. 10-2 record. Came in with some hype. This fight is expected to go to his decision at -410. But I'm going to lean Alexa Grasso. Now, holy crap, underdog fight of the card here. Sorry, undercard bout. Not underdog play, but undercard bout of the card. We have Pedro Munoz taking on Aljamain Sterling. Pedro Munoz, he's a tank. 32 years of age. Broken a number of his previous opponents. Brett Johns, Brian Caraway, who's no longer in the UFC, Cody Garbrandt. We're going to see a bull versus the matador here in Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain Sterling, 17-3 record. Pedro Munoz, 18-3. Both of these guys are colliding. They're streaking. 8,500 for Aljamain Sterling in DraftKings. 7,700 for Pedro Munoz. Pedro Munoz plus 120 underdog. Aljamain Sterling minus 140. The Funk Master is expected to go to a decision here. Minus 185. Fight goes to a decision. Serra-Longo, I believe they have Aljo coached up. Of note, at the weigh-ins, this was the first time Aljamain Sterling has ever weighed in below 135 pounds. He came in at 134. The way I see this fight playing out, there are a few different ways it could play out. We could see Pedro Munoz attempt to close the distance right away. Possibly land fight-ending blow. But I think the more likely scenario is that Aljo is going to be on his bicycle. He's going to be looking to land leg kicks of his own. Pedro Munoz may attempt to chop the leg. One thing I noticed, Aljo responded to a tweet of mine earlier in the week when I was concerned about Pedro Munoz's fight-altering calf kicks. He said that the effective response to that is a equal, quick response. So I suspect we'll see Aljo getting in, getting out. He's a much quicker fighter. And although Pedro Munoz has a tremendous ground game and is a tremendous Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, I really think the wrestling, especially defensive wrestling, is going to come into play for Aljo. I think the cardio edge goes to Aljo. We've got a huge reach advantage here. 6-inch reach advantage for Aljamain Sterling. I see Aljamain Sterling winning this fight by decision. And if this fight does go to the ground, I know Aljo's got to look out for that guillotine, but I also see him taking advantage in scrambling situations, and his creativity, his length on the ground is going to be a big advantage for him. So I actually have a couple of units on Aljamain Sterling at minus 130. He's currently sitting at minus 140. 7,700. You could see Pedro Munoz land that guillotine, or we've seen Aljamain Sterling get his lights shut off by Marlon Moraes. That isn't out of the question here. Decent fight to target on DraftKings, although Aljamain Sterling hasn't been the most productive fighter from a DK scoring perspective. Recently, he has done well, though, against the Brett Johns fight and the Jimmy Rivera fight. Next up, we have one of a kind, Tatiana Suarez taking on Nina Ansarov. Women's 115-pound division, Tatiana Suarez, 7-0, 28 years of age. Nina Ansarov, been around the block, 33 years old, American Top Team product. Married to Amanda Nunes. Nina Ansaroff, 6,700 in DraftKings, plus 560 underdog. Might as well just pay up for Tatiana Suarez here. She will make this very quick. I think we'll see her actually lock up a submission here at some point. Fight doesn't go the distance. Odds sit at minus 135. I'll make this quick. I think we see Tatiana Suarez roll here. I think we see her land a number of transitions and get the victory. Next up, very interesting fight here at the heavyweight division. We have Tai Tuivasa taking on Blagoy Ivanov. Ivanov starting to morph into a 250-pound Mauricio Shogun Hua. Looks exactly like him, except he doesn't possess Shogun's skill set. Ivanov, 7,500 at the betting window, plus 120 underdog. Ivanov, maybe the oldest 32-year-old I've ever seen. Tai Tuivasa, 26 years of age. Looks sloppy physically. Also can fight sloppy. Tuivasa, although he's look at his record, he's 10-1. Fighting out of Australia with the likes of Mark Hunt. It's been 6 months since Tuivasa's lost to JDS. 8,700 for Tuivasa. Minus 140 underdog. This fight, man, Ivanov also lost to JDS, and then I actually thought he lost to Ben Rothwell. I have no idea how the judges were able to give that to Ivanov. But in this case, I see a sloppy heavyweight fight where, let's be honest, Tuivasa could come out here, guns blazing, and try to get Ivanov out of there, but Ivanov is a tough out. He does possess some grappling. I'd like to see him implement it. I'm going to lean Tuivasa here, but Ivanov, 17-2 record. You don't get that far in the game without having some skills here. So he does have some fight IQ. He knows how to win rounds. Doesn't take too many chances. Fights safe. It's all up to Tuivasa. If he comes into this fight guns blazing, I think he could actually finish Ivanov here. So I'm going to lean Tuivasa here. Next up, very interesting fight. Somebody I've been a huge fan of through the years, Jimmy Rivera. I've been to a few of his fights. He's won me a lot of money. Taking on Peter Yan. Peter Yan, 26 years old. Crazy the skill set Peter Yan brings to the table at 12-1. I nailed Peter Yan against Douglas Silva de Andrade as an underdog, as plus 100 underdog a while back. Peter Yan, tremendous job against John Dodson. 9,300 in DraftKings, minus 335 favorite Peter Yan. This is all up to Jimmy Rivera. If he comes out and does what he has to do, closes distance. Rivera's actually has a reach advantage here. Rivera's still only 29 years old, 6,900 in DraftKings, plus 265 underdog. Hang on, folks. Here, help me out. We're going to say hi here. So, the deal here, folks, is Peter Yan, he has a number of things helping him out here. He's got cardio, he's got skills on the ground, he's got a fearlessness, and he's got a ton of momentum. I was disturbed by Jimmy Rivera's performance against Aljamain Sterling, and I didn't like what I saw against Dodson. We have some issues here, though. We've got... Hang on 1 second. 1 second, dude. Here we go. We've got some issues here. All right. Kiddo's gone. So, long story short, I think Petr Yan can win this fight on volume. He can win this fight on the ground. Jimmy Rivera has not... He hasn't showed us a plan B. He's got a tremendous record, 22-3. But something that's concerning is he hasn't evolved. And Petr Yan, I think he's got Jimmy Rivera figured out. And the minus 335 line, I think that's an accurate line. These guys are going to... I don't think there's a way... If Petr Yan could corner and track down John Dodson, he can do the same to Jimmy Rivera. And Jimmy Rivera can throw heavy. I think Rivera's only way of winning this fight is by knockout. But I'm going to roll with Petr Yan here. He could be a very high point producer in DraftKings, just like he has been in the past. At 9,300, it might be a little sneaky because everyone's going to be paying up for Tatiana Suarez. Okay, but the picks here are going to be Petr Yan. In GPPs, you may want to take a look at Rivera. Okay, now we have one of the best fights on the card, a card that should be a 5-round fight. Tony El Cucuy Ferguson against Donald the Cowboy Cerrone. Lightweights. Listen to these records. 36-11 for Donald Cerrone. 24-3 for Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson, last time out, we saw him in October when he took on Anthony Pettis. That was only 6 months after that massive knee surgery. He had an LCL repair. First minute or two, looked like that leg was going to be an issue, but then he started throwing kicks with that leg and stormed through Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis, we saw what he went on to do, beating Wonderboy Thompson. MMA math doesn't make sense, though. Donald Cerrone coming in with a tremendous amount of momentum. Less than a month out from his 5-round affair with Ally Quinta. Ally Quinta fought his heart out, but I think he got caught up in the moment. He was letting himself get backed up. You never want to let yourself get backed up against Donald Cerrone. I don't think we'll see Tony Ferguson let himself get backed up in this case. These guys, you want in on this fight in DraftKings. These guys are priced in right in the middle of the pack for El Cucuy, and then 7,600 for Cerrone. Cerrone has a real shot at winning this fight. Cerrone, man, this is his 48th professional fight. 36 years old. Ferguson has a 3-inch reach advantage. Tony Ferguson minus 150 right now. The mental game, I believe, is won by Tony Ferguson. Donald Cerrone's been motivated. Tough fight to call, but I lean Tony Ferguson here. I don't see a way that Cerrone can win this fight by decision. I think Ferguson is just not going to give any space to Cerrone. I think we won't see Cerrone have room to kick at distance. So what it comes down to is, can Ferguson take the shots in the pocket from a precise striker and keep moving forward? We've seen him do that in the past. He's 35 years old now. I heard Cerrone's interview where he was singing the praises of Lando Venata. I'm sure he went back to that fight and was looking to capitalize early on Tony Ferguson. Cerrone knows that he's a slow starter. The lean and the pick here is going to be Tony Ferguson. I got in on a unit at minus 137. Tough fight to call, but the only way I see Ferguson losing this fight is if Cowboy finishes him. I've been wrong in the past. One instance is where I thought someone's only path to victory was by finish. Paul Felder, when he took on James Vick, I did not see Paul Felder winning a decision over James Vick. So there are no certainties in mixed martial arts. Proceed with caution. The pick here, though, is Tony Ferguson. Next up, we have the widest odds on the card. Valentina Shevchenko taking on Jessica Ai. Shevchenko minus 1365 favorite. 9,600 in DraftKings. Taking on Jessica Ai, who is sitting at plus 740. 6,600 in DraftKings. Jessica Ai, 32 years of age. I have no idea how Jessica Ai got this title shot. It just speaks to the thinness of the division. We've seen 115 pounders move up to 125 pounds. I think Tatiana Suarez could move up here and win a fight. Shevchenko could win this fight a number of different ways. The question is whether or not this fight goes to a decision. Right now, odds are sitting at minus 105 that it does not go to a decision. But long story short, Shevchenko wins this fight. She's got tremendous fight IQ. She's not going to make the mistakes that Jessica Ai is hoping for. And Jessica Ai, I mean, she believes in herself. Her post-fight speeches, you talk about Henry Cejudo being cringeworthy. Give Jessica Ai's post-fight speeches a listen. They're disturbing. So the pick here is going to be Shevchenko. Let's get to the main event of the evening right now. We've got Henry Cejudo against Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes, 31 years of age, 8,300 in DraftKings, taking on Henry Cejudo, 7,900, plus 115 at the betting window for Cejudo, minus 135 for Marlon Moraes. Marlon Moraes, 22-5. 22-5-1 record. Henry Cejudo, 14-2. Henry Cejudo, we know about that gold medal. He got his start in mixed martial arts later in his career. Cejudo moving up. Let's cut to the chase here. Cejudo hasn't fought someone who strikes and moves the way Marlon Moraes does. Marlon Moraes, he has Frankie Edgar, who's been training with us, as well as some other bodies. With Mark Henry, appears extremely motivated, as does Henry Cejudo. Cejudo, I don't think he hasn't been hit like this. The leg kicks, I believe, may come into play. Moraes has a decent get-up game, but he's going to have an Olympic wrestler on top of him. You know what this is going to come down to? I think that Cejudo, he'll be able to take Moraes down, but what does he do with it after that? He isn't a submission grappler, and he may try to rinse and repeat takedowns and win this through cardio. This fight isn't expected to go to a decision, though, minus 150. I believe Marlon Moraes is going to take this one inside the distance. Closely lined fight. Very, very closely lined fight. Odds are on the verge of flipping. Marlon Moraes, I believe, is the play here at 8,300. But there's no way you can count Cejudo out. taking off. He basically his win over DJ. I hit Cejudo against DJ at plus 450, and then also, I mean, look at how he's picked up his game recently. Beating TJ Dillashaw, safe game plan versus Sergio Pettis, disposing of Wilson Hayes. It just matters the evolution of Henry Cejudo. I really think the extra 10 pounds here is going to be a major issue, and that the power side is going to win Moraes this fight. I think he can hurt Cejudo in a number of different ways, and he seems very, very hungry. Moraes, the win over Aljo, the win over Rivera, and then the Assunção victory. This guy's streaking. So tough to pick against Marlon Moraes. So I'm gonna roll with him here. That's all she wrote, folks. Want to thank everybody for their time. Wish you a great Saturday morning, great fight day. You can follow me at MikesMMAPicks on Twitter. You can also follow me at betmma.tips as well as CapperTech. Thanks to MMA Oddsbreaker for hosting this on their channel, as well as BetDSI. Enjoy the fights, everybody.